Anyway, my next guest has got a chicken on his CD cover. It's a new comedy CD, the very best of Paul Morrissey, and it's available from his website. Please welcome back to the show, chicken lover Paul Morrissey.
Hey everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of the Alley-Oop Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Morrissey. We had the great Larry Miller on our on the Alley-Oop Podcast last episode, and it was great. I went to Larry's house a few weeks ago and recorded it, and we talked about everything from Seinfeld to Curb Your Enthusiasm to starting comedy in the early 80s, and Larry's whole comedy career, basically, and we talked about a lot of his favorite things. We talked a lot about Midnight Run, the movie, for some reason, too. So it was a lot of fun, so you can listen to that episode now. But this is a very a special bonus episode. Larry was kind enough to, before I even had a podcast, I don't even know what I was thinking at this point, but I'd never met, I think I'd only met Larry a few times before this encounter. And Larry, after taking a kind of hiatus from stand-up, he's always been a really busy actor, but he, during certain stretches was one of the top comics, and I guess stopped, or at least took a break from working, the clubs and headlining to focus on a movie career and actually make money. But yeah, he basically kind of rededicated himself to stand-up, and he was going down to the Comedy Magic Club a lot, and did a return appearance on the Letterman show, and this was he was about to make his second return appearance on the Letterman show after the big break, and I was working on a few of the shows with him, and he was going over the set with me, and I was throwing some tags at him and kind of helping him get into shape. And we talk about what goes into that for you non-comedy folks. What goes into doing like the 4.5 minute set on a TV show. It's kind of a long process and a lot of trial and error and a lot of meticulous changes for most people. And the guys that are really good at it are really good at it for a reason. They put a lot of time into it, as Larry does. So after working with him on that set, he said, "Hey, is there anything I can do with you?" And I just got this recorder. It was a Zoom recorder. And I was like, "Hey, would you mind?" Because he has a few of my favorite comedy stories and a few rumored stories about him, about Seinfeld and him trading acts at the comedy strip one night, or the comic strip one night. Also, the rumor that he was first going to be cast as George in Seinfeld. I'd heard that one. So I asked him a few of those questions and some other things, and basically get a pep talk from Larry Miller, because he's always, every time I talk to him, I always feel a little bit better about being a comedian and the journey that we take that has a lot of ups and downs. I mean, I'm currently in Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, and it's every once in a while you end up. It's a nice hotel. I'm in Iowa though, so and I have today off. I didn't do a show, which is always frustrating. And then there's a big show tomorrow, so you kind of have that hurry up and wait mindset. So I'm trying to be productive. So I have a lot of great things are going on with the podcast. By the way, thanks to all the new listeners, and also we've got the great Jim Gaffigan coming up next episode. We got Stephen Tobolowsky, Sam Tripoli. Got a lot of great episodes coming up, so tell your friends about it, subscribe, and if you have any questions or anybody would like to get me on you'd like me to get on the podcast, I can't talk, just email me at alleyooppodcast@gmail.com. So that's ALLEYOOPPODCAST alleyooppodcast@gmail.com. And you can also go to the website, alleyooppodcast.com, that has all the pictures of guests and videos that we talk about and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah. And also, it's very strange. I just started paying attention to Twitter in the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months. And I'm up to, I think, like 10 or 11,000 followers, and I'm trying to stay active on that. So if you want to connect with me, my Twitter is Paul Morrissey, PaulMorrissey. So it's just at Paul Morrissey. And if you're into Twitter, yeah, we'll follow each other, I guess. If you're not in Twitter, this makes no sense to you whatsoever, so don't worry about it. But also, you can support our sponsors. We have Uber, who actually does a lot of nice stuff for our guests and myself. It's a private car service, and if you use taxis for the airport or anything for your job, Uber's basically, it's an app that you download on your iPhone, and you just hit Pick Me Up, and the closest town car within, you can actually see it's like a video game on your iPhone, will start coming towards you. So you set everything up with a credit card, and you don't have to tip the driver or sign any papers or anything. It's just all done through your iPhone. So it's pretty cool. And if you sign up on my website, the alleypodcast.com website, or paulhasawebsite.com, just click on the Uber link and put in Paul Has a Website. When you sign up, you get $20 for free. So that's almost a ride to the airport, basically. So what else can I say about Iowa? I was kind of excited because one of my favorite movies of all time is Kingpin. And if you guys remember, Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray, Roy Munson from Ocelot, Iowa, which I found out is a fictional place because they had Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is not far from where I grew up in upstate New York, which is, well, let's be honest, it's a dump. And Reno, Nevada, which is kind of an infamous dump of a town. Thus, Reno 911. It is an ironic title. And Ocelot. So I was thinking this was like the triumvirate of dumpy towns, or just kind of armpit places. But Ocelot is not a real place. Unfortunately, I thought I'd be able to at least get my picture in front of the Ocelot sign. That was that hard, Paul? You can't think of the word sign? And yeah, it just this is the first time I've ever been to Iowa, which is weird because the beginning of my career was mostly cities of the ABA, which, if you don't get that reference, it's cities that were secondary cities like Syracuse, Buffalo. Not your San Franciscos, is what I'm saying. Not your Los Angeles, New Yorks. Your Anaheims. Places like that. ABA cities, which I'm looking up right now. I'm already falling into the Wikipedia vortex. So, ABA, these are the teams that, there's a few of the teams that actually made it into the NBA. They combined when, or they didn't combine. The ABA folded, and I guess the NBA bought a couple teams. I don't know exactly. But there is the Anaheim Amigos, Los Angeles Stars, the Dallas Chaparrals, which I didn't even know what a chaparral was. And I didn't even know how to say it, to be honest with you. Which, dictionary.com is telling me how to say it right now. Chaparral is a, I guess it's a shrub, which I don't know if that's ideal for a basketball team. But the funniest one was Minnesota Muskies, Memphis Pros. All right, this is hilarious. So the Memphis Pros, I guess, moved in the middle of the night, and they moved in the middle of the night to, where'd they go? 10 days later, he moved the team to, I think, New Orleans to Memphis is what I'm reading right now. I could be wrong, but this is Wikipedia. They moved from New Orleans to Memphis, and they had just bought the team. So instead of changing its name, they had just bought the Bucks uniform. So they said they could change it to the Pros just by cutting the letters on the jersey. That's when you know the owner's cheap. He can't even spring for a new set of 12 jerseys. So they changed the jerseys from pros to bucks by manipulation. They could keep the same jerseys. That's great. All right. Well, I didn't mean to do too much ABA history, but this is a great episode with Larry Miller. So thank you guys so much for listening. All your feedback is great. So catch up with me on paulhasawebsite.com or alleypodcast.com. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Hope you enjoy this bonus episode with Larry Miller. Yes. Where am I going to be next, you're asking? Where can I see Paul Morrissey doing stand-up comedy? You are in luck. I was just selected to be in the Great American Comedy Festival at the Johnny Carson Theater in Norfolk, Nebraska. So yeah, they picked 20 of us nationwide to perform there. It is some kind of a contest, but it's just a great thrill to be included. I've heard great things about the festival. It will be hosted by Drew Carey, and I do know that Stephen Wright will be there. He's accepting the Johnny Carson Award there. So I'll be there June 12th to the 15th. You can go to greatamericancomedyfestival.com. Yeah, see, I had it. For more information. And I don't know exactly the schedule yet, but I'm sure it'll be on their website. Also, I'll be headlining the House of Comedy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, June 19th to the 23rd. And this summer on the East Coast, you Canadians are in luck. Get your loonies and toonies together, because I'll be at the Absolute Comedy Club in Toronto, July 10th to the 14th. At the Comedy Nest in Montreal, Canada, July 18th to the 20th. And at my favorite club in the world, Absolute Comedy in Ottawa, Canada. And the whole week will be sold out. So get your tickets to go to absolutecomedy.ca. I'll be there July 30th to August 4th. I can't wait to get there. And it's always good to be in Canada during the summer when it's not frozen. So for more information or buy my CD, Paul Morrissey's Back, from Rooftop Comedy Records, you can go to paulhasawebsite.com. Thank you. All right, we're here with Larry Miller at the Comedy Magic Club. He's just running through his Letterman set for next week. And how are you feeling right now?
You know what? We're comics. We talk shop. We just worked on another bit for Jan, as you know, and had a free dinner. Mm-hmm. And it's great. That room is very cool for me. That's why we're friends anyway. But when I know I see you in that room, I was telling Jan, I can go anywhere on the road, and any comic I see in a green room, I know I can say, hey, let me ask you something. What do you think of this? Mm-hmm. And it's a very deep room for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Green rooms.
Well, speaking of the Letterman thing, so this is your second spot since kind of returning lately?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
So how many total is this? Do you have any idea, or you lost track?
I don't know, and I don't mean to sound the wrong way.
Oh, no.
Like it's... Well, it's so many, but it's... I was very lucky. I love the show, love the folks here, love the guy. I mean, just, I through the 80s on the first one, mm-hmm. and then through the 90s, I guess somewhere like 15 or so, or 20 or something, but I mean, I don't remember. And plus, I think for people like us, frankly, it's better to only think forward. I know what we did tonight, mm-hmm. the performing we did tonight. I know that we're sitting here now. I know tomorrow I'm going to go over that stuff again and look at that DVD, and I'm going to work that shot again.
Right.
And I know it's getting closer. And, in fact, bouncing it off you with your help. Because that's what I meant. I know not only because we're friends, and we have the same respect for each other as comics, but when I saw, oh, you're going to be here, great, I'll ask Paul about this.
Okay.
And then tonight coming in, I knew I could say, all right, I reworked it. Tell me what you think of this.
Right. And you still have, I guess that's the one thing I've never completely asked you is you did take was it a conscious break from stand-up or a conscious return to stand-up? Or
it was conscious return. I'm an actor and a writer as well, and I've been lucky at it, and I love those things very much. And that's not lip service. I love acting, and I love writing. But I'm a comic, and I wasn't consciously trying to leave something. And but suddenly 2 and 4 and 6 years go by. You know, it's like everything in life. You bend down to pick up a fork, and when you sit up again, suddenly, you know, there are shutters on the windows, and
right.
The restaurant is closed, and there are spider webs all over, and 700 years has gone by. So I just love I realized, hey, I'm a comic. That's the alpha and the omega. The first and last for me is I'm a comic, and I'm never going to leave again. I love being a comic.
Was there anything specifically? Because I think through that comedian movie, maybe Jerry Seinfeld mentioned that he'd seen like Chris Rock on stage somewhere, and he saw this particular performance, and it kind of like inspired, like he was so kind of like, wow, that's a great thing that he does, and then he remembered, oh, I can do that too. So
you know what? It's probably many things, but I think it was more just on the creative side, the personal side of, wait a minute, that's right, I wrote there's something funny about this that we'll know in a minute, that I wrote a book called Spoiled Rotten America, which is I had a chance to do, which is great. The chance was great, and I love doing it. It's essays and comic essays, and as I was writing them, I was actually thinking, you know, these things could almost be spoken out loud. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's some sort of structure or forum whereby I can speak these words to a group full of people. Mm-hmm. and actually there was almost that circuit of it, of the logic of them saying, oh, well, it's funny, I wonder, hey, wait a minute, I could be a comic again. And, I mean, I did benefits and things during those years, but that's not being a comic. That's not doing 5 minutes at a benefit or, you know, dusting some stuff off isn't being a comic. Being comic is whether you're doing the 5 minutes for Letterman or the Tonight Show or something, or whether you're on the road, you know what I mean, because you're a comic. The ability to go out and stand toe to toe with an audience and say, wait a minute, this is my place. This is what I'm supposed to do in life. I'm a comic.
And I remember when you first started coming down here, it was very regularly. How long did it take for you to feel like you kind of got it back, or at least got the dust off or the rust?
Well, I remember Seinfeld said, I said, how long did it take you to really feel you were back? He said, 3 years. And he wasn't kidding. I mean, you know, and we all look for different things. Let me put it this way. I came down here for 6-7 weeks, kind of straight, whether it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20-minute sets. Right. And then, because I love this place, you know, Comedy and Magic Club at Hermosa Beach. It's you know too, it's my favorite place in a way. And so after that, then I had a job booked. And that was May 8th. That's right. My manager used to say, was Kitty Wayne used to say, we open in Irvine on the 8th. It was sort of like an old...
right.
Old
so that was your target date just to get ready.
And so I knew that, I can't remember now, it was about 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it was great. And then I was really happy. Mm-hmm. Now, I was doing an hour again, and I was being able to say, I would call him up and say, I just did 56 minutes. But I don't know whether it was that craft, were those sets less fluid than they are now. All I know is that if I live another 50 years, and I have it on very good authority that I will, by the way, that I hope to just keep getting better and deeper every day on it, because this is a deep thing. Performing live is a deep thing. Well,
I guess that's the one thing that I started in the late 90s, and it was one of those things where when you started doing it, you wanted to keep developing material. That's what I liked about, like, you keep developing it. And then there was something about, I don't know if it was the 80s or not, but what is it about the guys that you see that just come up with their 45 minutes of material and then are just done? You know what I mean? I guess
I just can't speak to that. I don't know about errors or syndromes. I only know that. I mean, when, for instance, from that era, when people would say in interviews, "Wow, it must be a great time to be a comic now because so many clubs are opening up or something."
Right.
And I would always say and mean it. No, it's a great time to be a comic now because I'm alive now.
Right.
So if this was 50 years before or 100 years from now, that would be a great time to be a comic because I would be alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You and I would have been in vaudeville in 1908. We would have been going to watch Jolson or something, and then looking for places to work or get on the bill at the Lowe's circuit or whatever they used to do. If we were alive 900 years ago, we would have been in acting troops going through Scotland or England or Ireland or something.
Right.
And we would have been doing that.
Yeah.
We would have been performers.
And I didn't mean that to sound bad. I mean, it's any era now. There's guys that go up to, they get their headline set, and then they feel like they are done. And I feel like once you can write jokes, that you're only going to get better.
Oh, yeah. So. It's this thing. And I said this, in fact, just earlier in a different context. I always felt we should be the ones to use the phrase La Cosa Nostra, which is obviously it's a mafia phrase that means our thing, this thing of ours.
Right.
And I think that comics should have something like that because this is our thing.
Right.
As you said, looking forward, more bits, more jokes. And people can hear the word joke and they say, well, just a joke? No, a joke is a deep thing. It's a very deep kind of communication. When a joke is really good, it has its own wisdom.
Right.
Whenever I see senators or mayors or anybody speaking, they always have this very grave expression on. And I really want to say, too many people think they know what they're doing. And I always want to say, no, buddy, you've missed the point. Because wit and humor and storytelling are really, I think, a teacher of wisdom, far more so than somebody saying, I feel that you want to say, buddy, you're not leading anyone in, whether it's school boards or anything,
Right.
I know that sounds idiotic. What do you mean, comics will heal the world? No, but I think everybody knows what I mean. When you hear again, when people say, hey, you know what, I had a tough day today, and you made me laugh, you made me happy again, and you made me forget this or that, that's a deep thing for someone to say.
Yeah, yeah.
That is really something. That's, there's giving a man in the desert a glass of water. These are more dramatic things, more life-saving things, or food to someone who's starving. But when someone says, you got to hear that when someone says it.
Yeah,
if you hear it, hey, I had a hard day and you made me laugh. If you really hear it, and you say, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then later on back in the hotel or back home or back tonight driving back home, I can think, you know what? Then that's good. That's a good moment in life.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I don't want to hold you up. I had a couple questions that I purposely have never asked you before.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
All right. So we were talking about this other story earlier, but there's one story that I heard that obviously you were friends with Jerry Seinfeld and still are. And was there a night where you guys actually traded acts, and he did your act and you did his?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that's true. Okay.
Yeah, we used to do that. In fact, for several years, every April 1st.
Oh, no way.
And
what brought that on?
I don't know. See, what brought it on for me was Jerry was always a great writer also. I mean, he would write his stuff. He was the first of us to write every day, to have the legal pad or the composition pad and write material. I don't think I wrote for the first 3 or 4 years. I would just do things and they would coalesce into bits.
Right.
And I used to be proud of that, but I was wrong. Writing is the thing.
Right.
Writing is where it really lives, of really codifying. The writing is the push-ups. You want to look like Schwarzenegger? Do push-ups.
Right, right.
I guess that's not so anymore, but you know what I mean. If you want to look like Conan, start doing push-ups. And
but was that brought on by like you guys just always working together and knowing each other to act, or
it was our little home there, the comic strip in New York. We had a lot of our crew's great folks: Jimmy Brogan, Paul Reiser, Carol Leifer, Mark Schiff. Some pretty terrific folks there.
Yeah, yeah.
And but Jerry's stuff was always so good. I used to say, boy, I'd love to in my head, I'd say, wow, that material is so good. I'd love to perform that material. It's like seeing a play and saying, hey, I'd like to be an actor in that play.
Right.
I'd like to have that part.
Right.
And so I don't know how it officially started, but I said, I'll go up and do that. I'll do some of your bits. It was so much fun. And I could kill with his bits because it was like having a ball and a bat. It was harder with my stuff just because it wasn't written yet.
Right.
It was story form, and there were a lot of word pictures and images and a lot of performing energy, but his stuff was already really good.
But did you do this at a particular club, or did you pick a night?
Comic strip.
Yeah. Okay, so you just did it.
That was our home.
April 1st
at
the comic
strip. Yeah.
So how many times did you do this, do you think?
Well, I guess 3 times or so, maybe 4. I don't know.
Yeah. So, well, if we're coming on next April, maybe that's one of those traditions that you could come back to.
You know what, though? Probably. No, I don't think there would be, in all seriousness.
Right.
No, there are certain things you leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Behind. That we used to get together every New Year's Day. Mm-hmm. All 4 of us, me, Schiff, Reiser, and Jerry. And that's fine. We used to do that, but. We're married. We have families.
Right.
You just. I like to be with my kids on New Year's Eve.
Right. Right, yeah.
If I'm not working. It's a long way to go for lunch. Well, if you love someone already, we're already friends.
Right.
You know what? It's good enough. Working together is good. Mm-hmm. You don't need to celebrate the way younger guys do. If you're 25 and say, wow, let's celebrate every moment of life. Mm-hmm. We'll drink on this corner every day. Right. And we'll make sure that we come back to remember this. And we'll only have shots of this and that and here and put it in the coffee, because that's a tradition. And we're very not good at making traditions.
Right.
You know what, though? No, that was dandy at the time. Mm-hmm. So we'd switch acts. You know what? That was dandy at the time.
Right.
You know what's dandy now? Touching base with your old friends and talking about, what's your job now? Or I just wrote a thing or working this shot out.
Right.
That's why I knew I could ask you. Yeah. I could ask him or anybody. I'd say, wow, I'm working this shot. Mm-hmm. Just, shining this thing up, unstitching it every day and stitching it back up at night. Mm-hmm. And then just getting it an inch closer every day. Because who else is going to understand that except one of us?
Yeah.
You, him, me, anybody.
It is a very specific thing, and I don't think a lot of people know exactly what the process is or what...
They're not supposed to. That's why cops hang out with cops. Who's going to understand except another cop?
Right.
What happened today? You know what happened today? I was really scared because the guy, swung at me with an axe. Mm-hmm. Who's going to understand that? Me? You? Mm-hmm. No. So cops will hang out with other cops. So comics tend to hang out with comics.
Right. And then the other thing is you kind of see this a lot on the Wikipedia pages or whatever, that you were actually... Jerry was thinking about having you play George Costanza, or was that ever...
You know what, by the way? That, first of all, when you make a TV show, there are layers of cast, networks, of executives, of studio people, of this and that. There are many, many people in the decision-making process. Mm-hmm. But that show, remember something, come on.
Right.
That show could not have been better cast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. It's also like saying, did you or I get the Tonight Show or Letterman or the first time we did this or the next time we do that? Mm-hmm. Well, we'll do it again then. You know what? Right. The key is, are you alive still? Are you working still? Are you funny still? Are you trying to get better? But that show, I mean, everyone knows it.
And you did end up getting a great... I don't know if it was a recurring. Was the doorman just one episode?
That was one. But you know what? Everything, again, on that show, everyone knows this.
Right.
Every episode was distinctive. Mm-hmm. Come on. Every part was really good. I mean, they made, well, I better say again, it's a heck of a show.
Right.
Pretty good show.
Least, yeah.
You know what? Who doesn't? It's just a great show.
Right.
And it was then, and it will be in another 100 years.
And just wanted to say real quick, well, I know you got to leave, and I have to close the show eventually. Right. But
the audience will be milling around like androids.
Yeah. What is your goal specifically for comedy now? Are these Letterman spots the things that really drive you, or is it doing
it's all
the shows?
Sorts of things, and larger shows, and one-man shows, and this and that. I just want to keep writing and thinking as a storyteller, as a performer. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I don't even know what the long run means anymore. What I know is, seriously, we just had our dinner here at the club. We've performed. Mm-hmm. We're friends. You know, it was good to see you again. We're doing this now. I'm going to drive home. Might have a gigantic drink. And the point is just to go home, you know, see everyone.
And then we do it again tomorrow.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
And then if you're lucky enough and you get that blessing, you get up in the day again and like say, hey, look at this, I'm up again. You should look up and say, thanks, this is great.
Well, that was the conversation with Larry Miller a couple years ago when he was returning to stand-up. Just getting his second Letterman set together since his kind of return to working stand-up pretty much every week and working the clubs again. So, yeah, that was a cool look back. A couple years ago, we all looked so young through audio somehow. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, some great episodes coming up. Jim Gaffigan, great conversation with him. Got a lot of new facts about Jim. This is an interesting talk. I'm a good friend of his, and I learned a lot. So I think you guys will be surprised, and in a good way. And he also he wrote his first book called Dad is Fat, which is coming out on May 7th. So the episode will be coming out, I think, that day. So if you want to subscribe or tell your friends about it, the episode will be available on May 7th, as far as I'm planning right now. So go to paulhasawebsite.com, alleyooppodcast.com, support my sponsors, Uber, hotels.com, and amazon.com. If you buy anything on Amazon, you can just do it through our website. Just click on it, buy whatever you want. Doesn't cost you any more, but we do get a piece of it, which is nice. And also, support Larry. You can go to his website, LarryMillerHumor.com, and he's got a book out, a couple books, I think. And also, he's got a great podcast called This Week with Larry Miller, which is free on iTunes. You can download that, and it's really cool. Just him in a sound booth just telling stories once a week, which is pretty cool. This guy's he's been around and worked with a lot of one of those guys I love talking to. Has a lot of great stories. So that's it for the bonus episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening, everybody. Hope to see you, or hope you hear me soon on another episode. Haven't quite figured out how to sign off yet, but I think I'm just going to say bye-bye.